T-37. Second half is the T-38, which is the jet. However, after the first 6 months, Cynthia decided that flying airplanes really was not for her, which it happens to a lot of people. And she decided that she wanted to come back into the engineering world. So in December of 1999, she PCS'd to her first engineering assignment at Edwards Air Force Base in California. And there she stayed until July of 2002. As soon as she arrived, she was given as the new lieutenant on the block. Her first assignment was the Commander-in-Chief Installation Excellence Award. Sounds familiar. And she did a bang-up job there. As a matter of fact, she did so well that the Air Base Wing Commander noted in her OPR that she was just awesome. Simple as that, quote unquote. From there, she was assigned as a civil engineer for the group. That was a civil engineering group at the time. And the group commander nominated her and named her as the go-to lieutenant, because every hard job and every hard task that he had, he gave it to Cynthia to get accomplished. She quickly was selected to become the squadron section commander for the CE group. Very prominent position, a position of trust for the group commander. And she learned all about OPRs and EPRs, declarations, discipline, and re-enlistments, multiple things that squadron section commanders do to make sure that the commander stays out of trouble. She did so well as a lieutenant that the Air Base Wing Commander pulled her up to the wing, and for about 3 months, she actually was the wing commander's exec officer as a first lieutenant. That's pretty impressive. Generally, that is a senior, well-seasoned captain to go up to a wing and sit in the front office and represent the wing commander. So she did that, and then she came back to the squadron and became a project manager. And one of the first jobs that she had was a replacement of a 2,000-foot by 100-foot runway repair on this runway called Runway 22. Now, after I read about it, I'm thinking, why is it so important? Well, the reason why it's so important is because it's an alternate landing strip for the space shuttle. And she was given this project, and she just had a little bit of pressure. She said, you start the project, they told her that she starts the project after the space shuttle launches, and it had to be repaired before the next space shuttle launch. Therefore, there was no slippage allowed. There was no delays allowed. So what did Cynthia do? She finished the project early. She just did a great job at Edwards. She was selected as the Company Grade Officer of the Quarter twice, Company Grade Officer of the Year once, and the group commander of the last OPR prior to her departure said she is definitely ahead of her peers and a leader in our civil engineering world. So in July of 2002, Cynthia decided to do something a little different and went into the exchange officer program and showed up at Gulfport, Mississippi as part of the Navy Seabees. Something different, something unique. Definitely an opportunity, definitely an experience. She was named as the Assistant Ops Officer and also the Deployment Officer for the Seabees. We had a huge event in the Department of Defense, March of 2003, and that was Operation Iraqi Freedom. Prior to that, of course, you had to get to your deployment site, get prepped prior to the war starting. So as a deployment officer, Cynthia was tasked to get the Seabees to Kuwait. She had to recall 165 Seabees from 7 different remote sites, and then deployed 992 of those Seabees and $40 million worth of equipment to Kuwait prior to the start of the war in March. I also found it pretty interesting that since the Seabees had started some projects in Guam, she also activated 100 reservists in Guam to complete the 5 projects that the Seabees had actually started, so that the Seabees wouldn't look bad and just get up and walk away from projects, although their primary job was called to go to war. So that was a great planning on her part. So she also deployed with the team to Kuwait, and she actually became the OIC of what they call Camp 93, which was one of the camps right on the Kuwaiti border just prior to going into Iraq. And her camp of 1,200 people was also responsible for monitoring, tracking all of the convoys that went into Iraq and came back. 72 total convoys, 50,000 miles of over-the-road travels supporting the humanitarian military relief efforts in Iraq. And Cynthia actually deployed one time in Iraq as well and bed down for the night in the middle of Baghdad in one of the soccer fields. So she had quite an experience while she was there. The Navy had some very interesting remarks on her OPR. Outstanding leader, tireless dedication, incredible enthusiasm. The commander said, "We need more officers like her in the Navy." That was quite a compliment for an Air Force captain working in the Navy. And his last line on her last OPR said, "Keep her in the lead, the mission will get done." I think that about sums it up. So Cynthia finished up there in July of 2003, and then she PCS'd to Charleston Air Force Base, South Carolina, where she became the Chief of Maintenance Engineering and worked for some guy named Hicks, who happened to be the commander at the time. So therefore, her whole entire 2 years, she was the Chief of Maintenance Engineering, and again had some incredible accomplishments. 96% customer satisfaction rate, incredible amount of infrastructure support and funding for infrastructure improvements from year end. She was the assistant ground boss for one of the first air shows there in Charleston that we had in 7 years. And what was really incredible is she instituted the GeoBase system for aircraft parking plan that just entirely blew the senior leadership away. Because if you've ever been involved with an air show, you know there's always last minute changes. A plane comes, can't come, and you have to move the parking plan around. Using the GeoBase tool, we were able to do that in 10, 15 minutes with multiple options. Cynthia also took a 6.5-week TDY to Squadron Officer School, where she was named the top third, which is a replacement for the Distinguished Graduate Program we have there at SOS. So in 2004, she had some incredible accomplishments.